I'm the one who brought up the hall pass idea, and now everyone thinks my husband blindsided me with his choice to use it. They're calling him manipulative, saying I got played. But I'm the one who orchestrated this whole thing for my own reasons, and what I did before Vegas makes me the real villain here. The stakes aren't just my marriage or what our friends think. It's that I convinced myself I was being progressive and adventurous when really I was looking for permission to do something I'd already half done. My best friend Kate stopped taking my calls. My sister won't let me near her kids until I get my priorities straight. And Daniel, my husband of 6 years, looks at me now like he's married to a stranger. They all think they know what happened, but they don't know the timeline. They don't know what I was hiding when I made that suggestion. I'm going to tell you everything, exactly as it happened, including the part where I'd already crossed a line with my coworker before I ever mentioned Vegas to Daniel. Because that detail changes everything about who's actually the victim in this story. I was never the adventurous one in our relationship. Daniel was the guy who suggested we try rock climbing on our third date, who booked surprise trips to Morocco, who wanted to learn salsa dancing. I was the planner, the spreadsheet maker, the one who color-coded our shared calendar and meal prepped on Sundays. My idea of spontaneity was trying a new restaurant without reading the reviews first. But something shifted last year when Marcus joined our marketing team. He was everything Daniel wasn't, unpredictable, a little chaotic, always with a sarcastic comment that made meetings less unbearable. We started getting coffee between client calls. Those coffees turned into lunches. Then those lunches started running long, and I'd find myself texting Daniel that I was stuck in a meeting when really I was laughing at Marcus's impression of our boss in the parking garage. Nothing physical had happened. That's what I kept telling myself. We were just friends. The fact that I thought about him during my morning shower didn't mean anything. The fact that I'd started wearing my good jeans to the office and actually doing my hair on days I knew we'd have project meetings, that was just professional development. Right? Daniel and I were fine. We were good even. We had sex regularly enough, maybe once a week, sometimes twice if one of us had been drinking at dinner. We didn't fight much. We agreed on most things. Our life together had a pleasant, predictable rhythm that I'd always thought was what marriage was supposed to look like after the honeymoon phase ended. The Vegas trip was for my college roommate Becca's bachelorette party. When she first mentioned it 6 months ago, I'd been excited. A weekend away from routine, dancing with my girlfriends, maybe drinking too much champagne, and making bad decisions that only involved ordering room service at 3 a.m. Then Becca mentioned that her fiancé's bachelor party was happening the same weekend. In Vegas, at a different hotel but still. And she laughed about how maybe we'd run into each other at a club, wouldn't that be funny? That's when the idea started forming. Not fully developed at first, just a little seed of possibility. Marcus had mentioned he'd never been to Vegas. He said it during a team lunch, probably 3 months before the trip. I'd filed that information away without really knowing why at the time. The conversation with Daniel happened on a Tuesday night in February. We were watching some documentary about ocean plastic, both of us scrolling on our phones, barely paying attention. During a commercial break, I just said it, casual, like I was asking if we needed milk. What would you think about having a hall pass? He looked up, confused. Like for jury duty? No, like a relationship hall pass, for Vegas. One night, one person, no questions asked after. I watched his face carefully. I told myself I was doing this for us to inject some excitement into our marriage, to be the adventurous one for once. But my heart was pounding because I was already thinking about texting Marcus, asking if he'd ever been to Vegas, maybe suggesting he should check it out that specific weekend. Daniel laughed at first, then he saw I was serious. Where is this coming from? He asked, actually putting his phone down. I shrugged, kept my voice light. I don't know. I just think sometimes relationships get stale because we're too afraid to acknowledge that we're still attracted to other people. What if we just admitted it? What if we gave each other permission for one night and then came back to each other more honest about who we are? I practiced this speech. Not out loud, but in my head during my commute, in the shower, lying awake at night while Daniel slept beside me. He was quiet for a long moment. This is really important to you? I think it could be good for us, I said, exciting, something different. What I didn't say, I'd already looked up Marcus's social media to see if he'd be single. I'd already imagined what his hotel room might look like. I'd already betrayed our marriage in every way except the physical act itself. Okay, Daniel said finally. If you really think it'll help, okay. The ease of his agreement should have surprised me more. Should have made me question what he was thinking. But I was too busy calculating how to casually mention to Marcus that I'd be in Vegas that weekend and maybe we should get drinks. The next day at work, I wore the black dress that Marcus had once said made me look like a film noir character. He'd meant it as a compliment. We had a project deadline meeting scheduled, just the two of us reviewing campaign analytics in the small conference room. I waited until we were halfway through the presentation deck. Hey, random question, you ever end up making it to Vegas? He looked up from his laptop. Not yet, why? I'm going in a few weeks for a bachelorette party, was just thinking it's a shame you haven't been, it's kind of ridiculous and amazing at the same time. Maybe I should finally go, he said, and there was something in the way he looked at me that made my stomach flip. When did you say you'd be there? I told him the dates. Watched him type something into his phone. Those dates could work for me, he said. I've got some PTO saved up. We went back to the presentation, but the energy in the room had shifted. We both knew what was happening, even if we weren't saying it out loud. That night I slept with Daniel with more enthusiasm than I had in months, and I hated myself for it because I was thinking about Marcus the whole time. I was trying on what it might feel like to want someone new while having permission to act on it. The guilt was there, but it was muffled under layers of excitement and rationalization. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus and I texted about Vegas. He asked me to recommend hotels, restaurants, shows. Each message felt loaded with subtext. We both knew he wasn't just planning a vacation. We were choreographing an affair with my husband's explicit consent, except Daniel didn't know he'd given consent for Marcus specifically. He thought he was agreeing to some hypothetical stranger in a nightclub, not my coworker who I'd been emotionally involved with for months. The morning before my flight, Daniel made me breakfast. Scrambled eggs exactly how I like them, turkey bacon, fresh berries. I want you to have fun this weekend, he said. Really? No guilt, no weirdness. We agreed to this. You too, I said, because he was flying to Miami for his own trip. His college buddy was turning 40 and having a beach party. Use yours if the opportunity comes up. I probably won't, he said, but I like knowing I could. That feels good actually, like we trust each other enough to be honest about being human. The earnestness in his voice made something twist in my chest. He thought this was about trust and honesty. He had no idea I'd been planning a specific encounter for weeks, that I'd already emotionally checked out of our marriage enough to orchestrate this whole scenario. I kissed him goodbye at the airport, and I told myself everything would be fine. We'd both have our adventures, come home and be better for it, more honest, more ourselves. The flight to Vegas was full of Becca's friends, all of us drinking mimosas and laughing, and I kept checking my phone to see if Marcus had landed yet. He got a room at a hotel downtown, not on the strip where we were staying, which felt strategic. Deniable. That first night was the bachelorette party stuff, dinner, clubs, bottle service we couldn't really afford, screaming along to early 2000s pop music. But the whole time I was thinking about the next night, when I told Becca I needed to skip the planned activities because I wasn't feeling well. She'd been understanding, told me to rest up. Marcus texted me at midnight, just got in. This city is insane. Coffee tomorrow? I wrote back dinner instead. Even better. I fell asleep that night in a hotel bed next to Becca's cousin Shannon, listening to her snore, my heart racing with anticipation and dread in equal measure. I'd done it. I'd created the perfect conditions for what I'd been wanting for months. And Daniel had said yes, so technically I wasn't cheating. Technically I had permission. But I knew, even then, that the permission was based on a lie. He thought he was agreeing to spontaneity, to possibility, to some abstract concept of freedom. He didn't know I'd engineered this specific scenario. That felt like cheating even if the act itself wouldn't be. The next evening, I told the girls I was staying in to recover from our late night. Took a long shower, did my makeup more carefully than I had since my wedding day, wore the blue dress I'd bought specifically for this trip and hadn't shown Daniel. Marcus suggested a restaurant off-strip, intimate and dark, the kind of place where you couldn't really see the other tables. We didn't talk about work. We talked about everything else, childhoods, failed relationships, what we'd wanted to be when we were kids, whether we believed in soulmates. I don't believe in the one, Marcus said, twirling wine in his glass. I think there are multiple people you could be happy with. It's just about timing and choosing to commit. That's kind of depressing, I said. Or liberating. Means if something doesn't work out, there are other possibilities out there. He was giving me permission to see him as a possibility. To reframe my marriage as just one choice among many, not a sacred commitment I'd made. We walked through the casino after dinner, his hand occasionally touching the small of my back to guide me through crowds. The contact felt electric, significant. We ended up at a bar, then another bar, and I was drunk but not too drunk, just drunk enough to silence the voice screaming that I was about to blow up my entire life. Around midnight, he said, "Do you want to see my hotel room? I got one with a strip view. It's actually pretty incredible." This was it. The moment I'd been building toward for months. I could say yes, and I'd technically have permission from my husband, and I could sleep with Marcus and see if the chemistry I'd imagined was real. Yes, I said. His room was on the 23rd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the lights of the city. We stood there for a moment looking out, and then he turned to me and we were kissing, and it was exactly what I'd imagined and also nothing like it. His mouth tasted like whiskey and mint gum. His hands were in my hair, I was pressing against him, months of build-up finally getting release. We made it to the bed. Clothes started coming off and then my phone rang. I ignored it. It rang again, then a text notification, then another call. You should check that, Marcus said, pulling back. It was Becca, then Kate, then 3 other girls from the bachelorette party, all within 2 minutes. My hands shook as I opened the messages. Oh my God, have you seen this? I'm so sorry, I don't know if I should tell you, call me right now. There was a video. Someone had sent Kate a video and she'd sent it to Becca and Becca had sent it to me. It was Daniel in Miami at what looked like a beach club with a woman, a specific woman I recognized from his Instagram because she'd commented on a few of his posts. Emma, one of his coworkers from his tech company. They were dancing, very dancing. His hands were on her hips, her arms around his neck. They were kissing, very much kissing. And someone had filmed it and posted it to their Instagram story, and it had made its way through social networks until it landed in my hands. I stood there in Marcus's hotel room, half undressed, staring at my husband kissing another woman, and the hypocrisy of my rage was not lost on me. But the rage was there anyway, white-hot and consuming. I have to go, I said, scrambling for my clothes. What happened? Marcus asked. My husband. I couldn't finish the sentence. He's what? Using the hall pass I suggested, doing exactly what I gave him permission to do, except the video didn't look spontaneous, it looked comfortable, familiar. The way Emma touched his face, the way he held her, that wasn't a stranger in a club, that was someone he knew. Someone he'd maybe been seeing before this weekend. I left Marcus's room, ignored his calls asking if I was okay, took a ridiculously expensive taxi back to my hotel. The girls were all awake, waiting for me, looking at me with this mixture of pity and horror. Did you know? Becca asked gently. About Emma, who is she? I managed. She works with him, they've been on projects together. Kate looked her up, she's been commenting on his stuff for like 6 months, hearts on his photos, flirty stuff, 6 months. The same amount of time I'd been getting 2 long coffee breaks with Marcus. We had an agreement, I said, for this weekend. We talked about it. The girls looked at each other. Babe, Kate said carefully, an agreement is one thing, but this looks like more than just a random hookup. This looks like he knew exactly who he was planning to see. Just like I'd orchestrated the entire Vegas trip around seeing Marcus. I called Daniel 17 times, he didn't answer. I texted him, I saw the video, call me right now, nothing. I paced the hotel room while my friends tried to comfort me, tried to remind me that we'd had an agreement, that technically he hadn't done anything wrong. But they didn't know the full story. They didn't know I'd been in Marcus's hotel room 30 seconds away from sleeping with him when I found out. Daniel finally called at 3 a.m. Vegas time, 6 a.m. in Miami. I saw you called, he said, sounding tired. The video, Daniel, what the fuck was that video? Me using my hall pass. Like we agreed. His voice was calm, too calm, like he'd been expecting this call. That wasn't some random person, that was Emma from your work. How long have you been planning that? Silence. Then how long have you been planning yours with Marcus? The floor dropped out from under me, the hotel room spun. What are you talking about? Sophie, come on, you think I didn't notice? The late meetings, the way you started doing your hair differently, checking your phone constantly. I've known about Marcus for months. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then why did you agree to the hall pass? Because I wanted to see if you'd actually go through with it, if you'd actually choose him over us, and I wanted permission to see Emma without it ending our marriage. You handed me the perfect solution. The girls in the room had gone silent, listening to my side of the conversation, watching me fall apart. So this was revenge? I asked. No, this was honesty. You wanted us to be honest about being attracted to other people. So I was honest. I've been seeing Emma since January, nothing physical, just like you and Marcus, just emotional, just enough to make me question everything. And then you suggested the hall pass and I thought, perfect. Let's both get it out of our systems. January, he'd been seeing Emma since January, before I'd even suggested the hall pass. You manipulated me, I said. He laughed, actually laughed. Sophie, you manipulated yourself. I just stopped pretending I didn't know what you were doing. Did you sleep with him? I looked at Marcus's number on my phone, the missed calls from when I'd left his room. No, I saw your video first. Well, I slept with Emma last night, it was incredible, and I have your permission, so there's nothing to feel guilty about. Isn't that what you said? No guilt, no weirdness? I hung up, threw my phone across the room, started crying so hard I couldn't catch my breath. Becca held me while I sobbed, and I couldn't even explain to her why this hurt so much when I'd been planning to do the exact same thing. All I could say was, he knew, he's known the whole time, he let me suggest it so he could sleep with her guilt-free. That's so fucked up, Kate said. He set you up. But had he? Or had I set myself up by being too cowardly to either commit to my marriage or leave it honestly? By trying to have it both ways, adventure and security, Marcus and Daniel, permission and betrayal, I spent the rest of the Vegas trip in the hotel room, crying and obsessively looking at Emma's Instagram. She was pretty, younger than me by 3 years, a rock climber, of course she was. She'd posted photos from their Miami weekend. Not the kissing, but the beach, cocktails, her toes in the sand. The caption, sometimes the risk is worth it. The comments were from people who didn't know she was talking about my husband. Didn't know that heart emoji was planted in the chest of my marriage like a knife. I didn't hear from Marcus after that night. I texted him an apology for disappearing, but I didn't explain. He responded, "No worries, hope everything's okay." And that was it. Months of buildup, all that emotional energy evaporated because my husband had beat me to the punch. When I got back to LA, Daniel was already home. We sat at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd had 1,000 normal meals, and looked at each other like enemies. "Where do we go from here?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "Do you love him, Marcus? Did I, or had I just loved the idea of him, the fantasy, the escape from the predictability of marriage?" "I don't think so," I said. "Do you love Emma?" "I could," he said, "if I let myself, but I also love you, or the version of you I thought I married." "I don't know who you are anymore." "You've been lying to me for months," I said. "About Emma, you knew what I was doing and you didn't say anything. You let me suggest the hall pass so you could. So I could what? Be as dishonest as you? You don't get to be the victim here, Sophie. You started this. You wanted permission to cheat with your coworker. I just wanted the same freedom you were taking." He wasn't wrong. That's what made it unbearable. We tried counseling. Went to 3 sessions with a therapist who specialized in infidelity, even though technically neither of us had been unfaithful according to our agreement. The therapist asked us what we wanted. "I want to go back to before," I said. "Before Marcus, before Emma, before any of this." "We can't," Daniel said. "That version of us doesn't exist anymore. We both know what the other one is capable of now." In the 4th session, the one Daniel didn't show up for, I admitted to the therapist what I hadn't been able to say out loud. I was 10 seconds away from sleeping with Marcus when I found out about Emma. If my phone hadn't rung, I would have done it. And then I'd have come home and pretended everything was fine. The hall pass wasn't about honesty. It was about permission to lie to myself. The therapist asked if I'd told Daniel that. I hadn't. Because admitting it would mean admitting that he was right. I'd manipulated the situation first. His manipulation had just been more effective. Word got out, I don't know how, but small social circles talk. Suddenly our friends were taking sides. Kate was furious at Daniel for setting me up, even though I'd tried to explain that I'd been emotionally cheating for months before the hall pass. My sister called him manipulative and controlling. His friends called me a hypocrite. The truth was we were both right and both wrong. We'd both been dishonest. We'd both used the hall pass as permission to avoid dealing with our real problems. We'd both been cowards. Marcus quit our company 6 weeks after Vegas. Put in his notice, said he'd got an offer in Seattle. We never talked about what almost happened. On his last day, he sent me an email. "For what it's worth, I think you deserve better than the mindfuck you're living through. Hope you figure out what you actually want." I deleted it immediately, but I thought about it constantly. What did I actually want? Not Marcus. I'd figured that out pretty quickly. He'd been a fantasy, a stand-in for adventure and spontaneity, but not a real person I wanted to build a life with. But did I want Daniel? The Daniel who'd known I was emotionally straying and instead of fighting for us, had started his own affair? Who'd agreed to my hall pass idea not to save our marriage but to justify his own desires? Emma sent me a message on Instagram 2 months after Vegas. I almost didn't open it. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. Daniel told me about the hall pass arrangement, but after everything happened, I realized that was bullshit. We'd been emotionally involved before that conversation. I knew he was married. I made choices that hurt you, and I'm sorry. For what it's worth, we're not seeing each other anymore." He ended it after your counseling sessions. Said he needed to figure out what he wanted without me as an option. Anyway, I'm sorry. I showed the message to Daniel. We were still living together but sleeping in separate rooms, existing in this weird limbo where we were married but not really. "Did you mean it?" I asked. "That you ended it to figure things out?" "Yeah." "Did you mean it when you said you didn't love Marcus?" "Yeah." We stood in our kitchen, the afternoon light coming through the windows, everything familiar and strange at the same time. "I don't know if we can come back from this," I said. "Me neither, but I don't know if I want to give up without trying." We started over, not all the way back, but from where we were, raw and hurt and angry, but trying. We stopped pretending everything was fine. Started actually talking about the things we'd been avoiding. How I felt invisible in our relationship sometimes. How he felt like I'd stopped seeing him as anything but a security blanket. How we'd both been looking for validation outside our marriage instead of fighting for it inside. It's been 9 months since Vegas. We're still together. Still in counseling, now with a different therapist who calls us out on our bullshit more effectively. We don't have sex as often as we used to, but when we do, it feels more honest. We look at each other now. I unfollowed Emma on everything. Deleted Marcus's contact information. Started trying to invest in my actual marriage instead of my fantasy life. But here's what I can't shake: Daniel was right about me. I did manipulate the situation to get what I wanted. I did emotionally cheat first. And when he called me on it, not directly but through his own actions, I couldn't handle the mirror he held up. My friends still think he's the villain, that he knew what I was planning and set me up for maximum pain. And maybe that's partly true, but I'm the one who created the conditions for all of it. I'm the one who suggested we could have permission to betray each other and call it honesty. Last week, Daniel asked me if I ever think about what would have happened if my phone hadn't rung that night in Marcus's hotel room. All the time, I admitted. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you just told me you knew about Marcus instead of agreeing to the hall pass? All the time, he said. We're living in the aftermath of our mutual dishonesty, trying to build something real from the wreckage. Some days I think we might actually make it. Other days I think we're just too broken, too aware of each other's capacity for betrayal. I'm telling this story now because last night Daniel got a text from Emma, just a simple "hope you're doing well." He showed it to me immediately, asked what I thought he should do. Whatever you want, I said, but be honest with me about what that is. He deleted it, blocked her number while I watched. That's what I want, he said, to stop choosing the easy escape. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know if we'll make it. I don't know if two people who have hurt each other this deliberately can ever really trust each other again. But I know I can't paint myself as the victim when I was the architect of my own pain. I asked for a hall pass because I wanted permission to do something I'd already started doing. He said yes and used it too, and maybe that was his revenge, or maybe that was just him being as honest as I'd asked him to be. Either way, we're both responsible for the mess we made. And I'm finally done pretending otherwise.